Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar, Collaborative Spec Writing. We're looking at the unlocking the potential between specifier and manufacturer through digital solutions. My name's Lee Jones and I'll be your host for today with some of the guests who we'll introduce in a moment. Before we carry on, can I just do the housekeeping? All attendees' microphones are muted for a better experience through the webinar today. Any questions that you would like to submit will be recorded and we'll follow these up after the webinar. If you'd like to speak to anybody regarding any follow-up opportunities, if it's regarding MBS, you can speak to your account manager, or if you are new to MBS, you can find out more by visiting info@thembs.com. For our guests today, if you have any questions for those, their contact details were provided on the slides during the case studies, and feel free to contact those at that point as well. So, as mentioned, my name's Lee Jones. I'm the Head of Manufacturer Solutions at the MBS. Joining me today is my colleague, Dr. Stephen Hamil, who's the Innovation Director at MBS. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Lee.
And we've also got Julie Tate from PPG Architectural Coatings. Hi, Julie.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello. And we've got Christian Baker-Smith from Access 360, who's going to also be discussing about how they integrate with MBS for the Profab solutions. Hi, Christian.
Hi.
Okay. So for anybody that's new to MBS or not, just to reiterate who we are, MBS is a construction platform for the industry, which provides a means of specification writing for architects, designers, contractors. It also allows manufacturers to connect with those designers and specifiers and contractors through the platforms that we have. I'm going to touch a little bit more on where MBS started and where we are today through this presentation. But all you need to know is that our clients are your clients, so you're in safe hands. So what we're going to cover today, well, how MBS has been standardizing specifications for the past 50 years. We're going to look at current industry demands. We're going to discuss the specification journey through the eyes of both the specifier and the manufacturer. And we're going to look at product research and how MBS Source interacts with that. We're then going to hear some great case studies from PPG and Profab. We're going to look at collaborative spec writing, and we're going to see a live demonstration of Chorus being used predominantly by my colleague Stephen Hamil, but also with some interaction there to demonstrate how that can be collaborated between the specifier and the manufacturer. And then we'll discuss the benefits around that and how you can get started if it's something that you're interested in. So, specification, a brief history. Thought it best to start with this, and some of these slides have been used previously in a couple of the webinars that we've used, but it really does help to set the tone of why we're doing what we're doing and what this webinar is about today. So to begin, MBS was founded just over 50 years ago, and we've been standardizing specifications ever since. Prior to that, there was no standard specification format in the UK, so any job that was contracted or built had a varying different types of specification provided, which not only did that make things complex, but it also increased the risk of error and also made things very time consuming and potentially quite costly as well. In the videos in the background, what we can see here is one of the old traditional MBS specification systems, and it's been videoed there using the old MBS building tools by Faulkner Brown Architects, who still to this day are a long-standing MBS customer. And on the right-hand screen, we can actually see MBS Chorus and Source, which is where we've actually developed these tools, and they're now all cloud-based and easy to access with an internet connection. So the need for standardized specs, why was this important? Well, first thing, we needed to enforce some sort of structure. Obviously, if everybody's doing their own thing in completely different ways in the industry, it causes all those problems that we've just mentioned on why MBS was founded. So to make the industry more efficient, more accurate, and to get better buildings ultimately was why this enforced structure was needed. There was then the requirement for provision of technical guidance. So this is things like your standards, regulations, anything that has to be considered and complied to when designing and building. These things change all the time. They're in constant flux. So making sure that you're up to date and maintaining these is really, really important. Then there's the ability to pick from suggested specification options. So for a lot of building design, things will tend to repeat. Pretty much most residential houses will have a bathroom, ensuite, etc., that kind of thing. So people might want to standardize specifications in that sense. But ultimately, if you're looking at creating a lot of buildings, you want to be able to make sure that your specifications are consistent and are accurate and of a really high quality throughout every single project that you move to. There's then using the latest content on every new project. So specification's great, but if you're specifying products that might necessarily not be up to date or suitable, then this can be quite an issue, particularly when it comes to procurement and construction. So ensuring that that's up to date and is completely okay is a really, really key thing to getting the specification correct. There's then the capture of specification knowledge across the organization. So benchmarking, making sure everybody's up to scratch and getting the specifications down in a uniform way is one thing. But if we look at the industry today, there is a lot of talk and a lot of demand to get specification knowledge communicated throughout the whole construction timeline as well. So that passing of data and specification information throughout the timeline is critical. There's then improved teamwork. So if you've got an efficient team, it's going to help you win more work and ultimately save money internally on your processes. So that's a key thing there as well. Access and quality control, again, ties into all the previous ones that we've just mentioned, but making sure that the specifications are of the highest quality each time is paramount. And then there's things like task-specific functionality. So whilst you might be specifying a specific product or system to go into a building, there's other things to consider, obviously, like the execution. So how is this product installed? If it's for something like paint finishes, for example, how are surfaces prepared and treated and primed, etc. beforehand, making sure that when the work actually comes to be installed and conducted, that the specification not only covers the products to be used, but how these are supposed to be implemented in the most correct way. And then lastly, that audit trail of decision making. So making sure that these decisions are logged and then there's evidence there as to why something should have been specified, or more importantly, why something was specified and should have been installed the way it was. So this is obviously the fundamental reason for specs. And then lastly, and this is a more modern feature, it forms parts of this digital ecosystem. So in an age where we are trying to facilitate the golden thread of information, having all of these decisions and specifications captured digitally helps to facilitate that. It's MBS. We've been obviously maintaining this for the past 50 years, as I've mentioned, and what we can see here is the top floor in our office. It looks slightly different than this now. It's a little bit empty. Everybody's working remotely, but we have a massive team of professionals, from architects to engineers, consultants, who are working on the specification templates on a daily basis. So this is maintaining them, keeping up to date with the relevant standards, anything that's new that's introduced to the industry, changes around legislation and regulation. So we do the hard work for you as a specifier or a manufacturer. If you're looking to create specifications, using the MBS tools actually gives you that peace of mind and reassurance that you're working with the latest documentation. There's then the consideration as to where specification fits into the marketing cycle. So what we can see here is a little infographic that MBS created, and it basically goes through the cycle of where marketing for manufacturers comes into play with how specifiers need to interact with certain manufacturer information through the cycle. We've got the RIBA planner work colours around the outside edge, and it actually ties in really neatly to that. So at the initial planning stages, this is where things like awareness is absolutely key. So things like CPD, continual professional development is looked for, as well as trying to find information on manufacturers and services and products. And this is where things like literature and case studies really come into play. And MBS Source can facilitate that really well. People then would register interest. So this is where the manufacturer's website might come in, and the specifier will be doing a lot of research there. But things like Source, where you can get access to that literature, you can get access to case studies and examples of similar project types where this particular product or system might have been used on something similar to what you are now designing, can be facilitated. We then go into the develop design stage, and this is where it's actually called spatial coordination now against the new 2020 plan of works. And MBS Source and MBS Chorus start to connect quite sort of importantly at this particular place. So MBS Source provides a digital means of listing product information, and it's a go-to source for manufacturer product data. That said, most specifiers will be writing specifications using the MBS tools, and today MBS Chorus is the current iteration of that. If you are looking to specify manufacturers directly within the MBS ecosystem, it's actually the data that was in MBS source is actually powering the manufacturer's data within MBS Chorus. So they're totally connected, and it ensures that the manufacturer's information is continually updated in the spec tool as well as hosted on the platform for research. Stage 4, main goal here for specifier is to get the final specification written. So this is really paramount that this bit gets all the technical guidance, everything sort of really documented to make sure that it's accurate and the building's going to be as greatly built as it should be. So this is where the final specification would be completed. This could be involving the manufacturer, or the manufacturer might have been involved in the prior stages, but ultimately collaboration here and ensuring that things are up to date and are meeting all these regulatory compliance is really key, and MBS Chorus is the tool that does that. We then go into stage 5, where construction and purchasing comes in. The data that's captured is obviously used through those processes as well. So it's maybe something that can be slightly overlooked by the manufacturers in particular, that data that they're facilitating in the earlier stages of the project actually then needs to obviously feed through, and it also needs to continue and feed through into the in-use phase. So this is where things like your CRM systems would come in if you were a manufacturer, to get that re-engagement, and things like the data within your product literature and the product listings for maintenance, even replacements when things might need to be replaced further down the line. So that's a little bit about the project cycle. I'm going to talk now about why specification is changing. For anybody that's not aware, that there's obviously a number of things that are impacting specification at the moment. Some of them will become glaringly obvious from the next slide, and some may not. But obviously the first thing is legislation is changing. So the draft building safety bill, for example, was published in July last year. And this is really the biggest shake-up of regulation in our industry for a long time. One of the key elements that comes from that is this golden thread of information and the capture of data digitally throughout a project, and making sure that projects are meeting specific quality checks at certain stages. So you might have heard of the Hackett stage gates. So these are going to come in throughout different times within the project, and the project will not be allowed to move to the next stage until things have passed. So capturing data here is going to be absolutely critical. And this is obviously having an impact on specification, because one, things need to be more accurate, but two, they do need to be more detailed as well. There's then sustainability. Sustainability had been at the forefront of most people's minds and was at the forefront of the news up until the recent sort of takeover with the pandemic. We've got the COP26 summit happening in the UK at the end of this year, and with the recent re-elections in the US, etc., it's now starting to surface again quite highly on a lot of agendas. You can't go a day without seeing in the news about different sectors, for example, automotive, where the ban on sale of fuel vehicles has also been brought forward again to 2030, which had originally set out in 2040. Construction is responsible for about 1/3 of the carbon emissions outputted into the atmosphere, whether that's through construction or through actual use of buildings. It's a combination of those statistics, but we need to do more, and buildings are now being targeted to be designed better and more sustainably, so we can try to reduce the amount of heat that we're gaining each year on year within the globe. So data like that is obviously factored into the spec, and manufacturers' products are obviously highly considered that have these kinds of USPs. There's then the ongoing drive for efficiency and lower costs. So this is something that has always been apparent right through back to the sort of Victorian ages and manufacturing, when lean processes started to be introduced. The same applies with anything. You need to be able to do things as smartly as possible and as cost effectively as possible, but retaining that accuracy and that trust. So being able to rely on tools that can actually provide and facilitate the possibility to do that is really, really important. And today in the digital age, it's something that we at MBS here are facilitating for our clients. Just touching on the legislation. This is a bit of an obligatory slide. We seem to throw this one in quite a lot, but Dame Judith Hackett obviously was leading the Hackett review in 2017, published the Building a Safer Future document, and has been key in outlining the changes that were in that draft safety bill. We heard from Dame Judith Hackett and the Construction Leaders Summit in October last year, where she noted that these legislation changes are due to come in 2023. However, what is apparent that through the draft that we know what we need to do now, so people need to start engaging with this, and we should be making the changes sooner rather than later. That said, if anybody wants to take a look at that, that document's freely available to download from the government's website. But from a digital perspective, if anybody wants to know more about getting data structured and how specification can help, just feel free to drop us a line and we'd be happy to talk to you on that. There was then some statistics that we did on behalf, through some research on behalf of the CPA. So back in 2019, the Construction Products Association appointed MBS to do some research for them. We had thousands of respondents back on this, and it was reviewing manufacturers and also reviewing specifiers to understand what was happening with product information through the specification phase. The key thing that came from that, and quite scarily, was that half of specifiers said it was too difficult to find manufacturers' technical information. Very, very easy to find things like jazzy pictures and marketing fluff, but not the hardcore specification details that they need to actually make true decisions. But alongside that, what was worrying if you were a manufacturer is that 82% of them want to specify manufacturers in their written specifications. So if you're making it difficult as a manufacturer for the specifier to actually find your information, there's a great risk there that you will be not specified, and somebody that is actually facilitating that will be. So something to consider there. And again, if it's something that you would like to discuss more, the contact details will be at the end of the slide. Then going to look at interconnected platforms. So with MBS, I mentioned we've obviously been facilitating this. At the beginning of the research stages, we offer the ability to join the RIBA CPD network. If anyone's considering producing CPD, particularly if you're a chartered architect, you need to achieve the 35 hours and 100 points a year. And as a manufacturer, MBS can help you facilitate these CPD needs to get you in front of those clients. We've seen a big influx over the past 12 months due to the COVID pandemic of people actually moving online and delivering these digitally. So again, you might be an existing CPD provider that's considering that. If you'd like to know more, just drop us a note. We then have MBS Source. So this is where we actually list manufacturers' construction products. You can find case studies, literature, digital objects. So by that we mean BIM content, Revit files, IFC, ArchiCAD, that kind of thing. There's also a load of different helpful and free documents to download. But as a specifier, if you're looking for manufacturers' products, you can actually search amongst thousands of manufacturers and manufacturers' products on here, and ultimately do comparisons against those product data that are actually associated to those different projects and products. And then lastly, the final thing that connects this is MBS Chorus, and this is predominantly what this webinar is about, so I won't go too much into that because we're going to discuss it quite in depth now moving forward. But MBS Chorus, just to set the scene, is actually a specification tool that's based in the cloud, and the manufacturer's product information that's within that is actually the same data source that is powering MBS Source, so the two are completely interconnected. In today's environment, most of us will be sat like this. I might look like I'm having a passport photo with this quite dull background at the moment, but we're all working from home and trying to find rooms and quiet places where we can get our work done. And your customers are in completely the same situation. As a result of this, MBS Chorus, which is MBS's first cloud-based specification tool, has seen a remarkable uptake in use through the lockdown periods. So much so that we were already on a rollover, but as of December last year, we actually took the choice of retiring MBS Create and MBS Building. So the old historic downloadable IT sort of installed type products are no longer supported by MBS. MBS Chorus then actually saw over 194%, that's an almost 200% increase in specs created through 2020. What we can see there, the dark purple line, is the usage of MBS Chorus for written specifications throughout the entirety of last year. The little blue line is MBS Building, which was the most popular one prior to that. And then the lighter grey line at the bottom is MBS Create, which has remained quite flat since the introduction of Chorus anyway. As you can see there, that it's becoming the only platform for specifiers to create their specifications. And quite rightly so. Manufacturers are starting to embrace it, and we're going to hear some great case studies now from PPG and Profab. So with that note, I'd like to hand over to Julie Tate from PPG Architectural Coatings, and she's going to talk a little bit about their journey with MBS.
Hi, thank you for inviting me on here. As he said, my name is Julie Tate. I'm the A&D Technical Specification Manager for PPG UK and Ireland. Here at PPG, we're a global supplier of paints, total coating solutions. We help customers in industrial, transportation, consumer products and construction market needs. We're UK-based, ISO 9001 and 14001 certified manufacturing national distributions. We're a total coating solutions for architectural needs. We've worked along with MBS for 10 years, and we introduced Chorus back in June 2020. We found that this was a requirement due to all the changes that had been made. We've got our enhanced data within MBS Source for all paint systems. We can write specifications across all sectors from healthcare, stadia and arenas. We've also created Office Masters and bespoke project specifications for all clientele, including architects, designers, and also end users. So specifications from a manufacturing point of view, we can write them specific for the client's needs. We work directly with practices and do collaborative learning, which offers our expertise and knowledge from all of our products that we provide. As also I mentioned earlier, we can do Office Masters in either common arrangements of work sections or as Uniclass 2015 clauses. So which offers the right coatings first time, which is crucial for the golden thread. This strengthens all of our partnerships and relationships between manufacturer and architects. What we find is we are the experts in our particular coatings. We can get all this correct from the start, which helps you as the specifier to get everything they need from the coatings that they require. These are a sample of some of the work that we've been involved in. We've worked with different architects to offer an Office Master with over 90 clauses from resin floorings and broadwall through to renders and intumescent for steels. We've also done specific bespoke specifications for each individual project that the specifier has requested. And also, if there's the case where we can't actually collaborate within your specification, we can actually write one and then we can send you either Word format or PDF format for you to copy into your specific specification. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Julie. Some really sort of insightful use there on the use of Chorus for yourselves as a manufacturer. If anybody wants to know more about how PPG or Trade Johnston's paints could actually help you with the specification, then Julie's contact details were on the bottom there. Feel free to drop them a note. We're now going to hear from Access 360, and on that note, I'd like to introduce you to Christian Baker-Smith, who's going to talk you through their interaction with MBS and how they are helping specifiers and collaborating themselves through the specification. Christian, over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you for the introduction. As mentioned, I'm Christian Baker-Smith. I'm the Divisional Specification Manager for the Access 360 group. I'm going to run through a couple of slides today. Hopefully you'll find it of interest. We're going to talk about a very quick, brief introduction of what Access 360 is and how we work with specifiers. That should hopefully set the ground for you guys on what we do and how we do it, and then how Chorus and the relevant products have assisted us with writing specifications. So who's the Access 360 group? Well, it's a divisional name for 3 businesses, and they all form part of the Timon group. They're How Green for floor access, Profab, which is riser doors, wall and ceiling access, and Bilco, which is roof access. Well, the biggest thing to know is, what do we do and how does it affect specifiers? Well, we manufacture and specify floor, wall and ceiling rated products that are both fire and non-fire rated solutions. We work very closely with specifiers, be it an architect, a contractor or client, providing with both detailed technical documentation, BIM models through to complete specification clauses. And we handle full technical drawing detailing and the manufacturing design elements in conjunction with those clients and architects from the initial stage through to delivery. So we basically hold the hand of the client through and through. And this means we have to ensure that all the information required by the specified client or contractor is provided with an easy and most concise manner. And this is really where MBS Chorus comes into play for the group and the benefits I'm going to outline to you now. How do we use MBS Chorus? Well, MBS Source offers the Access 360 division of companies a readily available source of technical data for our customers. When you couple this with MBS Chorus, we can provide architects and specifiers with a complete suite of technical information to help them specify their projects. So the real question is, how do we use MBS Chorus across the division? Well, it enables us as a business to provide a complete suite of documentation to architects and specifiers to help complete their projects. Due to the fact that Chorus enables us to easily access our projects and subsequent clauses, it makes updating specifications extremely easy and quick. Whenever we update our certification on our products or launch new products to the market, it's extremely easy for specifiers to access those new products as well. So we don't have to worry about checking data and checking documentation. It's all easily available. Each of the three divisional companies can also now create their own specification documents using both MBS Chorus and also MBS Source to pull the paperwork, the documentation paperwork through, which means that we can work with architects when specifying multiple brands to provide them with a complete project pack. This is something we previously found slightly harder to do when we were using previous products, and Chorus has made this very, very easy for the group. So let's talk about then, so previously prior to Chorus and now. Well, pre-MBS Chorus, specification clauses tend to be held by individuals on Word documents on their laptops. Documentation was not easily updated, leading to risks of incorrect data being issued, and a significant amount of time would be spent checking standard documents. New product launches or changes in performance would require a significant amount of work to get the MBS documents reset up. And the format of the issued documents and clauses would really depend on who was writing them. So we'd end up with documents going out would look extremely different between not only the business divisions, but the individuals themselves. And as you can imagine, when we're trying to supply a uniform document package to the marketplace, you have to have the right tools to do that. So let's have a look at post-MBS Chorus, well, now we're working across group. Well, writing these specification documents is significantly easier, and it's easier to locate each of the products needed to be injected in under the Uniclass references in both MBS Source, and then inject them via the tools available in Chorus to create those total MBS documentation packages. We can rely on the products being specified being totally up to date. They're all marketed and put through from our marketing director, so we know that everything available to the customers is the latest fire performance and so on that's available on the marketplace. And all divisional specifications are now issued in the same format. Now, this means it's much easier for architects to get used to the format documents are going out, to find the data they need. And you know that if you get a specification document package from the either Profab, Bilco or How Green, it's in a complete uniform manner. Everything's easy to find. All the technical details that you need are there. Now, using MBS Chorus has removed the need to have a review period, which we used to have every quarter, to obviously check that all the documentations were correct, as well as making sure everyone's laptops are up to date. So it's led to quite a considerable cost saving for the business, and also a much reduced amount of time spent. We don't actually have to have quarterly meetings any longer. We're totally reliant on Chorus being up to date with the source information, and we have to rely on that and don't have to worry. And finally, it's much easier to make revisions to Chorus specifications, whereas before you could easily lose a specification set. So if you were on revision, let's say G, and had to go back because the client changed their mind, which we all know happens, it could be hard to do that. You could overwrite documents, you could lose them, someone could leave the business. Now it's all held on a centralized system, and it makes it so easy and quick for us to update them. I can't stress that enough. It's a great benefit to the business. And that's it, everyone. So I hope you've enjoyed that presentation. It's all made sense. As mentioned, I represent Buildco, Profab, and Hamil Green. So that's roof access, wall access, and flooring access. And if you have any questions, please be in contact.
Thanks very much, Christian. Absolutely great presentation there. And obviously some really remarkable benefits. I'd like to discuss those now. So thanks very much, both of you, for your presentations. And if possible, we could just have sort of a quick 5 to 10 minutes Q&A before we go into the live demonstration of what Chorus can do for manufacturers and specifiers alike. I'll begin. So I think firstly, I'd probably like to go to Julie maybe on this one. Julie, obviously yourselves are using Chorus and to a great way that we've just seen in the presentation. Why do you think it's important for manufacturers to collaborate on these full technical specifications?
Well, manufacturers have the specialist knowledge and experience to advise on the best systems. It also, that knowledge and expertise supports the right first-time specifications. So as we've discussed, it's not everybody changing around. Everything is correct as and when it goes out. We've got the most up-to-date information on our products. We can work with the specifiers to understand the unique project requirements, for example, the environment, the durability needs, the usage, any green building requirements, and then advise. It removes the guesswork that used to happen.
Good stuff. And Christian, yourself, are you finding that it's getting that accuracy more and more increased with the specifications being written that way?
Yes, the market is very driven, understandably, post-Grenfell, on ensuring that there's complete openness and accuracy of the specification detailing. And fundamentally, all that detailing, as Julie's just alliterated to, comes from the manufacturer. So it is essential that we provide as much detailed performance certification as possible. And using the MBS products enables us to do that openly with specifiers regularly.
Good stuff, good stuff. I jotted sort of a few questions down before we went into this, but you've covered quite a lot of them in the presentations. I think one of the things that stood out from me, and particularly in Christian's presentation, but it was there in Julie's as well, was the use of Uniclass 2015. Are you seeing quite a lot of demand for specifications in that format? Christian, I'll probably go to yourself first on that one, and then maybe Julie, if you've got any sort of insight on that as well.
Yes, Lee, we see that quite a lot. If I'm being frank, I've been in the industry a long time now and done a lot of different MBS documentation. And in the last, I reckon, 18 months, the Uniclass requirements for format have come through very strongly. Every specification we now issue out is in that format. I have not had any inquiries probably in the last year that have not required that. So it's a driving force I'm noticing. I think it's easy to read, easy to understand, and it's easy for the architect to source the information they need.
No worries. And Julie, I think obviously this was mentioned in your presentation as well. Are you seeing a mix of the old MBS common arrangement to work specs and the new Uniclass ones?
What we're finding is A&D market, they are fully or 90%, 99% Uniclass 2015. Mm-hmm. On the common arrangements of work sections, we're finding that's more design and build via main contractor.
Right.
So yeah, more and more each day, mine are all changing over to Uniclass 2015.
Stephen, I think I might throw one your way actually on this. Obviously, you've been with MBS for a number of years and quite heavy into the Uniclass side of things. Do you think this is something that's coming as a result of the BIM framework, the Uniclass 2015 uprise, or is it just a case that, well, my personal opinion is that it's just a better way to do it? It obviously provides that clearer structure. What are your thoughts on the reason behind that?
I personally think it is a better way because it combines the systems and the products in one sort of package of the specification. So if you're specifying floors or ceilings or heating systems, all of the products that make up that system are in the single place. I do still think the industry's split though. A lot of people like the sort of materials-based specification, which is a checklist of F10, L10, etc. So I'd probably say yes, the BIM projects, maybe some of the larger practices are using Uniclass 2015 more now, but there is a really big long tail of codes still. And at MBS, we're here to support both methods of working because they're both getting used inside the Chorus environment.
Yeah. I think that's one of the key things to sort of note for anybody that's wondering what Chorus does, and we'll see it in the demos that you can actually write both specifications. So if your client's requesting Uniclass or if they're requesting the common arrangement to work sections, the old MBS building specs, you can actually facilitate both of those in that. So yeah, great. Thanks very much. Nice and easy question. Julie or Christian, I think this is more for yourselves. Have you got any successes you could perhaps share from using this since you've been using Chorus? Is there anything that stood out to you over the past 12 months or so?
We've got a few successes. Can't name specific projects, but we've got one or two architects who come back to us time and time again they've got most of our office masters now, and every now and again they'll come back with something a little bit more bespoke to cover a certain substrate. So we just add in that one, which is the reason I really do enjoy using Uniclass 2015 within Chorus, is it's so easy to just keep adding things into it as and when it's required.
Yeah, the hierarchical tree sort of setup of it does allow the switching in and out of the products and the systems to be facilitated with those. It is great. Christian, yourself, anything sort of stand out from you?
I'd mirror what Julie said. Obviously, I can't name practices, I'm sure you can appreciate, but there's one or two.
Yeah, of course.
Mate, we work with the majority of the AJ100 practices, and there's a few on there that are really top of the tree working with BIM models with us as we speak. Okay. And there's been one or two major projects that are going to come up in the city in the next couple of years that we're currently working on. And the number of revisions we've had to do on specifications, I've lost count. And the ability for us to quickly adapt and go back and forwards and then update it accordingly in Chorus is unbelievable. It must have saved me a week's worth of work that I previously would have had to do, which I just don't have to do any longer. It's made enough time I can, shave my hair and I'm off, kind of thing.
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, obviously, I remember my days as a manufacturer and you get specifications, and when it was revised constantly, particularly for something complex, you could spend absolutely hours, and then it was more the fine tooth combing to check that it was right afterwards once you'd done it. Whereas
that's it.
I think if Chorus existed when I was doing that, then it would have been a complete no-brainer to have used. On that sense, obviously, you've mentioned how easy it is to use. Are you finding that this is something that your teams have been able to pick up relatively quickly as well, or is it something that might only be used by sort of one or two people within the business?
Well, I think for us especially, I work across 3 business groups. So I picked it up first and brought it on board as an upgrade to the business. But I've now trained the sales teams in each of the other business groups. Okay. And maybe it's taken me an hour to train someone who's never used a software tool before, but every single member of the other groups that have had to use it, that's Profab, Bilco, and Hal Green, it's taken no more than maybe an hour to get them fully up to speed, to the point now they're actually writing their own MBSs. They don't even need me as support. They've got used to the tools that quick. So it's been excellent from that perspective.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, the sort of the user interface on it's really, really cutting edge, and I think an hour's probably about right. As long as you know your products and systems, I think that's really where the time-consuming bit comes in, is the knowledge on the products, and obviously as a manufacturer, you're going to be the experts in that field. I think sort of we'll ask one more question, then we'll finish up, and then we'll carry on with the demo. But obviously, specification writing is one sort of specialism that you can offer now as a manufacturer. How does that complement the other sort of services that you offer? So I know, Christian, you mentioned BIM. Obviously, Julie, coatings and things can be quite complex in regards to specification. Do you do anything like CPD, and then does this follow on from it, or is it BIM content and this might follow on from it? Have you got any sort of insights on that at all?
Well, from a CPD perspective,
sorry,
right.
Julie, can we get with you first, please? Sorry, that was
that's fine.
Sorry.
One on, one off.
From that perspective, yes, we do offer CPDs, and we're getting into the REBA. We do have all of those. So, and it's following on from this. As for the other one, the BIM objects, yes, that is also something we've got in the background, and it's all listed within our source data, enhanced data, which is all kept up to date.
Okay, so yeah, you're seeing that sort of whole connected point. So whatever avenue the specifier is coming in from, it all ends up leading to that one place where the specification's being.
It does.
Good stuff. No, great. Thanks, Julie. Christian, yes. Yourself, obviously, I think you had some comments then before.
Yes. So if we're talking about BIM models, if we look at Profab specifically, there's quite an interlinkage with architects asking for us to write both the MBS specification documents and then supply them with the BIM models. Now, the benefit is with Source, they're already attached, and we've also got the data links, which are then attached back to the website as well. So there's multiple areas they can access those BIM models. And we're seeing BIM ride more higher in the wave now than it previously has been. It's been a little bit of a slow burn, but everyone knows the direction of travel. But there's a number of projects now we're working on where they're using our BIM models. And then when referring back to CPDs, we really clutched the nettle last year when we all came back after being off, and we started doing national CPDs back in June, and we now run a national CPD every single month, and then interlink it back with those specifiers. And we find that doing an MBS registered and REBA approved CPD makes a big difference, because it draws in the architects to give them training on the information of which they're then specifying. So to me, the two really go hand in hand.
Good stuff. So it's offering that one-stop shop, isn't it, for the knowledge, regardless of where they are in the project timeline. I think on that note, if you were a new manufacturer considering Chorus, what would be the advice? Christian, I think I'll point that one to you, and then we'll let you go. We'll hand over to Stephen.
If you are dealing with architects, or you're dealing with contractors on any level that require you to provide specification documentation, I personally believe Chorus currently is the best product on the market to be using. From my experience, it enables you to have all the tools set in one place. And at the end of the day, we're all salesmen. We're there to generate work for the business and provide the best technical knowledge we can. And our time is valuable. And I find that Chorus limits the amount of time I'm having to do detailed work as much as currently possible.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thank you, Christian, and thank you, Julie, so much for your time today. Hopefully everybody's found it useful. I know it's always great hearing from manufacturers that are actually at the coalface getting these things done. And for the specifiers out there that are listening, if you've got any queries regarding PPG or Access 360, feel free to drop the guys a note with the details that were in the slides prior. Right, so the last stage of the webinar is a live demonstration of Chorus and how this works from a specifier's perspective, but also how the manufacturer can then collaborate with the specifier. Doing this today is my colleague, Dr. Stephen Hamil. So Stephen, over to you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, hi Lee, hi everybody. So on the screen here, you can see MBS Chorus. This is our cloud-based specification system built using sort of modern cloud technologies. So I can see all my projects here, and as long as you've got sort of 4G connection, works great on sort of handheld device or sort of nice big screen there on the Mac or the PC. What I'm going to do is just jump straight into a project and show you a specification. And how the manufacturer's information works at the sort of base level is when you're specifying, for example, if I'm specifying sanitary accessory systems, at the point where you hit the manufacturer product, you click in the manufacturer row here. On the right-hand side, any manufacturer that has source 2 products are positioned, and all you've got to do is click the plus button. You can come in and sort of read the technical information about the particular product. And that works whether it's sort of bathroom fittings there, or if I jump across here to a floor covering system, I can see that the floor cover is made of PVC sheets. At the point where you go PVC sheets, all of the manufacturer products are there from the different manufacturer partners, so Ultra, Target, Forbo, and you click the plus button to drop that into the specification. And these are all the source 2 products. So if you look here, the Sure Step Wood from Forbo, if I jumped across to MBS Source now, that's exactly the same product, which is the, just spell it right, Sure Step Wood floor system from Forbo in Source. So you've got Source here, accessible to the entire world, where contractors, subcontractors, clients, cost consultants can come and browse the content. And that same content, because it's classified properly, PVC sheets, appears at the point that the architect or the engineer sees it to add to the specification. Now, over the years, when we've shown this to manufacturers and end users, it's fantastic, single click of a button to drop the product in. But for the sort of larger, more complicated products and systems that must come together in a particular way on complex projects with certain execution requirements, system completions, we hear from manufacturers like Access 360, like PPG, that they have an in-house spec team that can offer fantastic technical advice. And they like to work collaboratively with the architect on those larger projects to make sure that the client's needs are sort of met. So what you can now do inside of Chorus, if I sort of jump across here, is invite other team members to the project because it's on the cloud. So this is never possible before with MBS Building, MBS Create, but you click invite users, exactly like Dropbox, Google Drive, and you can invite anybody to come in and work with you on the spec. So you'll have seen there that I'm on the spec, but I've also invited in Lee Jones. So if I jump back across to the specification now, Lee's also going to come in here. So he's going to go in on his machine now from Hull. I'm in Durham, Lee's in Hull, working over Zoom. And I'm going to open up this project specification and go to the ceiling spec. And at the same time, what you can see here as an architect, I've put a bit of a brief in. I'm also, you need the human contact as well. I'm talking to Lee on Zoom. And what Lee's going to do is to go into this system at the top. So you can see my mouse moving on the screen here. I'm reading some of the technical guidance on the right-hand side. And as I'm speaking to Lee, Lee's looking at my brief that I provided digitally, but also talking to me, and he can actually complete the spec collaboratively with me. So you'll see as Lee makes changes and clicks save, they'll appear on my screen using the latest technologies, so in the cloud there. So I've got my brief here, and then Lee's coming down and adding items in to the spec. And you might notice on the right-hand side, there's a little notes feature where you can capture some of the spec making decisions, the reasons why you have. So I can put notes in here, and Lee can do the same thing as well. So it's a bit like using Microsoft Word with the commenting feature on the right-hand side, but it's in the cloud, and it's got well-structured specification content there. And at that project spec level there, you could have 160 different systems working with 10 different manufacturers, 20 different manufacturers. You can see you get the notes panel there where you can see the notes from myself and anybody else that's working on that spec. I am demonstrating this in Unit Class 2015, but it's worth saying that all of the product information that comes into MBS is classified by Unit Class 2015, but also has the common arrangement of work sections code against it as well. So you can see that in our standard architecture content. This particular floor sheet is an M50-150 on the sort of full library, and M50-20 on the small works library. Takes a little bit of the pain away from the manufacturer's technical team having to work out exactly where that information fits. We've heard in the 2 case studies today that it's a big time saver where you can create office masters and then quickly just copy and paste those into project specifications, and also keep that revision history. So I come back to the Chorus dashboard here. Here are my live projects. But as a manufacturer that uses MBS Chorus for building product manufacturers, they can create their office masters where they can maintain sort of standard complex specifications that maybe are 80% correct for a project, and then only take a sort of final 20% to hit those project conditions. So what I've got here set up is a sort of fictitious partition system manufacturer, and they've set up 3 different types of partition systems. One, a severe duty 60, severe duty 30, severe duty 120. And they've got, it's over and above, like, add that bit of plasterboard or add that bit of insulation. You've got a sort of full brief at the top, talk about what products come together to give the performance that's there in the brief. And then going further down than just the sort of lists of products, talk about the quality of executions that's needed to have that really good sort of project outcome, like how it should be finished, how it should be installed. And then also you can write things like standard project requirements for like how the performance is verified at the end, like for something like acoustic testing or structural testing or what have you. And these clauses are shared through the different masters. So if I, as a manufacturer, got a phone from an architect who wanted a severe duty 60-minute partition system, I could go to my office masters, grab a hold of it, and it's just a case of copying it from your masters into the project spec. So I'd come down here and say copy to. If I was going into an architect's version of Chorus, I'd go to the clipboard, like clicking Control-Z and Control-V. But if I wanted to copy it to a sort of project spec in my environment, you click Project, select the project, Newtown offices, select the spec, and that partition system is going to go from, or a copy of it is going to go from the master into the spec. And you can see there it's dropped into the project spec, and you can do those sort of like last 20% of decisions. It doesn't need a damp-proof course. What are you going to do in terms of the sort of joint treatment or finish or what have you? And you're getting it right at that master level. Across your organization, you might have different offices, so you can have the right information that drops into project after project after project for that sort of final fine-tuning. And we do recognize that maybe not everybody in the industry is using Chorus at this point in time. You can also use that master functionality to generate PDFs you can put on your website. You can maybe sort of contact this email address, get some lead captures and things. But if I go to that partition system spec again, you see I've captured notes as I've maintained it against the standards and things. And there's publication history of every revision that I've published to PDF. So if we have a look here, that's the PDF I've published 7 days ago. And I can send it out by email. I can drop it onto my sort of specification area of my website. And it's all structured nicely. It's the MBS style and format. So use the MBS brand, sort of partner manufacturer that works with the MBS Chorus system. And that can be there to download by anybody, whether they're using MBS or not using MBS. So you're covering all the bases. You've got Source 2 for the single one-click add to spec. You've got Chorus for product manufacturers when you're working collaboratively with maybe some of the larger architects, the larger engineers. And then you can generate your own PDFs for putting on your own website for that wider market as well. So a little 10-minute demonstration there, Lee. Pass back to yourself.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Yeah, hopefully everybody found that useful. If anybody wants to know more about MBS Chorus, feel free to drop us a note and the contact details to do so. We'll be at the end of the presentation after the summary. So conscious of the time, we're just about to wrap up, but just to summarize what we've seen today. In a nutshell, MBS has been the leading company for specification in the UK, to the point where it's actually only ourselves that actually provide these tools. If you are dealing with somebody that's writing a specification, it's often referred to as the MBS specification, and Chorus is the leading tool now and the most current tool that's available to do that. The way that we compile specifications is changing. There's a lot of factors around legislation, sustainability, as well as cultural shifts that are changing specifications. MBS Chorus itself can allow the best collaboration between manufacturers and specifiers on projects. So if you are dealing with something that might be complex, or you've got a large project, then engaging with the manufacturer as a specifier is a really great way to get that done accurately and efficiently. Chorus offers the ability to create masters. So if there are projects that you might deal with time and time again, these could be residential, different types there, or it could be hospitals, schools, that kind of thing. You're going to have products potentially in systems that would actually be reused time and time again. So it actually saves you time in building these things up. You can collaborate in the actual project, as myself and Stephen just demoed. Stephen was acting as the specifier, writing the main specification, but then invited me along to that, and I wrote my part regarding that ceiling, as well as adding notes and things in there. You can do this as a manufacturer within that specification. The style sheets, so if you want to create these things as PDFs and put them up on your website, etc., you can actually facilitate the specifications with your company logo, font, coloring, that kind of thing, to give it your own brand identity. MBS keep up to date with all the standards and guidance. We've got the technical content team based up in Newcastle that are a mixture of very sort of highly skilled and experienced professionals, from architects to contractors, consultants, engineers, and so forth, that are actually maintaining the data templates for specs alongside all of the regulations and standards that the industry is influencing on those. Chorus is completely cloud-based, so it was designed mobile first, which means you can use it on a phone, tablet, you can use it on a Mac, you can use it on a PC, on your standard laptop, and there's no IT headaches. There's nothing to download. You just go to a web browser, and providing you've got an internet connection, doesn't matter where you are, you can actually work on your specification at that point. So you can use it anywhere, anytime, and on any device. It's fully connected to MBS Source, so the data that manufacturers would surface in MBS Source is what you can actually pull through into MBS Chorus, and that's the same visibility-wise, whether you're a specifier or the manufacturer. For the specifiers and the manufacturers, you'd be interested to know that Chorus actually has a plugin for the BIM software. So instead of using separately on a web browser, such as Google, for example, you can actually open Chorus direct in Revit or ArchiCAD or Vectorworks and actually write the specification there. This ties in great to things like BIM content if you've got that as a manufacturer, because it really helps to strengthen the as-built model, as-built specification, and the design model and design specification. And lastly, if anybody does go down the route of using Chorus, obviously full training and online support's available from MBS's team of experts. And on that note, I think we'd like to wrap up there. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to send those in and we'll respond to those separately after the webinar. If you'd like to contact us, feel free to visit thembs.com or email info@thembs.com. If you're a manufacturer specifically, we do have a dedicated manufacturing team, and they can be contacted at manufacturers@thembs.com. I'd like to say thank you again very much to Julie from PPG, and also thank you to Christian from Access 360. Unfortunately, Christian had to leave us to take another meeting just shortly ago. But Julie, thank you so much. And thank you, Stephen, again for the technical support on this. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you. Take care.